You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Chris.
We
What
are
are
the
you doing
Bible
here?
Guys. My name is Chris. This is Jeff, and that's who we are.
We're happy to be here.
We're also pastors.
Yes.
I always think of that when it says on the roll-in, it says, a couple of friends decide to talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, we're also pastors, right? So,
We're more pastor than we are friend.
are we?
Are we? I don't know.
I am so,
I don't know. I thought you were trying to make a point.
offended.
I thought you were trying to make a point or something.
Well, no. Because if we didn't announce or even mention that we pastored somewhere, nobody would do that from the roll-in. That's all I was saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Unless they went to the website and saw our
Jeff
description.
and Chris,
Which, by the way, I wonder if anybody does go to the website.
the Bible Guys.
Do we have metrics on that?
TheBibleGuys.com.
Yeah, thebibleguys.com.
Yeah. People leave messages there and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So on the website, we have a lot of things that are getting ready to come. I'm glad you brought that up. So we've started putting the word-for-word transcripts of the podcasts on our website.
Yeah.
So you can go and do that. And then we're developing like a search line where you'll be able to search topics. So Desiree said it's going to take her a little while, but she'll be able to go put every episode, the transcripts, and you'll be able to search a topic. So, hey, what did the Bible Guys say about, John chapter 7, right? It's kind of neat. We should be able to do that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of other features that we're not going to talk about today that we're getting ready to add to the website. But yeah, people do. BibleGuys.com.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
So, Jeff, today the segment that we're going to go launch into is what made Jeff happy this week?
Oh.
Because, after all, we all know that you never get mad at anything.
Yeah, nothing made me happy.
Yeah,
this week.
no. Yeah, Chris is the only one that gets mad, apparently, in life.
I think that's a way more fun segment is what made Chris mad this week.
Then what made Jeff happy?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, you know what, though? What made Chris mad is something that people can relate to. And they always go, yeah, that makes me mad too.
Yeah, but people can't relate to anything that I'm happy about.
Or they'll say, I can't believe that made him mad.
Right.
But when you say what makes it happy, it's like, number one, it's sweet, usually.
Yeah.
And number two, it's usually contained just to you.
Yeah, usually just to me. Like today's what made me happy. Are you saying I'm self-centered? Are you saying I'm a narcissist?
No, I'm saying most
the
things that
you're
make
happy
us-
about don't matter to us. It's only you. You're the only one that's happy about this. Jeff.
Unless it's butterflies and rainbows and flowers or kids.
Yeah.
I'm saying that most people can't say, oh, that happened to me too.
Oh.
Because it's usually a specific story.
Well, I had COVID last week.
Womp womp.
I know. I thought we were done. I thought we were done with COVID. Didn't like the president announce COVID's been defeated? The pandemic's over?
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to respond to that. I've had so many really great quips that I was ready to say.
So, anyways, I thought we were done with COVID, and then I got there's some new one. It comes out with the name has a P to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about, but so I had COVID, and
you got it. To be clear,
I got it pretty bad.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you got it. You know who you got it from.
Yeah, I know who I got it from. I sat next to him in a meeting for like 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever.
Yeah, and it was in another state.
In another state, that's right. And so I came home and get sick, and I'd been away for a while, so I was all excited about coming back and preaching at Heritage Church, all that kind of stuff.
And then you called me on Saturday.
I know. I was holding out because I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I started getting sick, and I was sick for a couple of days. I just told Bonnie, I said, I'm going to power through. If I can stand up, if I can go without coughing, I'm going to do this. And she said, do you think you have COVID? I said, no, I don't have COVID. She goes, let's just take a test. So we take a test, and it was positive immediately. It was one of those you're supposed to wait 15 minutes, and the line comes up.
Yeah.
It was immediate line. I was like, that one's broken. Let's get another one. So we got another one.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I did like
broken.
So we do another test, and then that's when I called you that night. Dude.
Yeah.
I would have powered through sick because I wasn't coughing bad.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just be miserable and go do it because I
So
really wanted to be at Heritage.
So now our listeners know on the third week of the Old School series that we were in a while back at Heritage Church, I got the call Saturday night to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what makes Chris mad this week.
That's right. That's what made Chris mad.
Jeff calls me right before I'm supposed to preach.
Yeah.
So anyways, that being sick was pretty much so. This one, because this is the fourth time I've had COVID.
It's crazy.
The first time I had COVID, you gave it to me.
The Omicron was the first time?
That's the first time I had COVID. Yeah. You gave it to me.
I thought you got it before me.
No. So remember, I had surgery. Then I was out for weeks, and they didn't want me to come back publicly at all until then. And that was the first time I got COVID.
No, that was 2020. I didn't get COVID until 2021, 22.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got, because I didn't get the COVID. I got the Omicron COVID.
Oh, yeah. I got COVID. Yeah, no, you had COVID first.
No.
Yeah.
I've only had COVID once. And it was the Omicron COVID, Christmas of 21.
2021.
Yep.
Okay. I thought I got it from you. Who'd I get it from then?
Don't know.
Somebody. Anyways, that was the worst one. Man, that was like, oh no, I'm going to die. Then the next COVID, I just tested positive for COVID. I didn't even feel it. And then the third time.
See, so you're saying the one I gave you, you didn't even feel.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Then,
you're welcome.
But I tested positive. then the third one was, no. The second one was I was sick. Third one I wasn't. The third one was, what was that one that came out? Delta or whatever it was. Remember?
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. That one was the one that wasn't bad. So the third one, and then this year was bad. Like, I didn't have a fever and I didn't have a cough.
This is supposed to be what made you happy?
No. I'm happy that I'm still alive and healed.
That's it? That's what you were leading to?
I'm just happy that I'm here. Yeah. I'm just complaining. I'm complaining about COVID now. So this one was bad.
You're happy you're alive.
I just was miserable. Like, I couldn't get off the couch. If I walked up the stairs, I felt like I ran around the block. It was crazy. So it was exhaustion and body pain, but I didn't have a fever and I didn't cough a lot. I got a little cough, but not like, when I was coughing my lungs out the first time. So then it was miserable, like I'm never going to get better. And then somebody flipped a switch, and in one day I was like, I feel great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All this release, miserable for it was like 6 days. I was just being miserable. And then bang, I feel great. And my energy level is down a little bit, but I feel great. And so I'm just glad that it's over. That's what makes me happy this week. I'm happy to be back here. I'm happy that I get to be with Chris Zarbaugh.
Hey, thank you.
All that stuff.
Hey,
yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyway. I saw this old clip of John Crist, the Christian comedian, which I love. He's so funny, right? But this was a clip that's like maybe a year or two old. But he goes, hey, everybody has that really ultra-conservative relative at a family gathering. And he goes, and he's the guy that always whispers, and he's like, hey, psst, come here. Come here. And he walks over and he goes, did you get the vaccine? And he's whispering like, did you get it? Did you get it? And he goes, I hear it's laced with Hillary's blood. And I was like, oh no, that's so funny. But that's.
Well, I had somebody ask me, did you get the booster?
Yeah.
Why did you get COVID? Didn't you get the booster?
But, okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess this one wasn't what they, because they make the boosters like they make flu vaccines. They just say, we think this is what it's going to be, and then they make one kind of maybe.
Yeah.
And then how often have you ever gotten, back in the old days, you get a flu thing, and then like 3 weeks later you get the flu, right? You get a flu vaccine, and then you get the flu.
All the time.
It's because they missed it, right? They missed which one, and that's kind of, I think, what's happened here on this one. It's just blown up. But anyways, it wasn't that bad. I felt miserable. My wife got it, and she was fine.
Didn't have many symptoms.
Yeah, hardly any symptoms at all. Yeah, so
I bet you she would beg to differ on that.
No, she was. So she had hurt her back. So she was miserable with her back, but she got up. She did Thanksgiving dinner, did all those things. It was fun.
Yeah. We're over our time.
So, well, I'm happy to go over time. That's the other thing I'm happy about today. So I was going along on purpose because we only have 6 verses to talk about today. Thank you,
but
Desiree.
They're so rich.
Yes, they are rich.
Yes.
So here we go. Ready? In Luke chapter 14, 1-6, Jesus heals a man with swollen limbs. And it says, one Sabbath day, Jesus went to eat dinner in the home of a leader of the Pharisees, and the people were watching him closely. There was a man there whose arms and legs were swollen. Jesus asked the Pharisees, an expert in religious law, is it permitted to heal, or in the law to heal people on the Sabbath day or not? When they refused to answer, Jesus touched the sick man and healed him and sent him away. Then he turned to them and said, which of you doesn't work on the Sabbath? If your son or your cow falls into a pit, don't you rush to get him out? Again, they couldn't answer.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's start at the beginning when it says, on the Sabbath day, Jesus went to eat dinner in the home of the leader of the Pharisees. Now, the leader of the Pharisees, was that Caiaphas?
With a leader.
Oh, it says a leader. Yeah, you are correct. I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so Caiaphas wasn't a Pharisee. He would have been a Sadducee, and he was the high priest.
Oh, yeah, that's right. On the Supreme Council there.
So the high priests, most of the priests were Sadducees, not Pharisees. So the Pharisees were like the blue-collar, genuinely religious guys, and the Sadducees were mostly political that bought their positions.
Yeah, and I always heard that the Sadducees were a lot unhappier than the Pharisees.
Yeah. I've heard that too. Go ahead, please.
Okay, here it comes.
Do you know
because
why?
they were sad, you see.
Well, why were they sad?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they didn't believe in the resurrection.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, that's why they were sad, you see.
I see. So
Right,
that's your version of the joke.
So the Sadducees didn't believe in angels, they didn't believe in miracles, and they didn't believe in the resurrection. So really, they didn't believe in a creator God that could intervene or interact with humanity at all.
Wow.
Right? So they didn't really, they had a religious system.
So I think I've always been a little unclear about this, because in my mind, I never even differentiated Caiaphas being a Sadducee versus a Pharisee. Although as soon as you said
it was likely, very likely that he was a Sadducee.
As soon as you said it, it triggered in my mind. I'm like, I remember hearing about this.
Yeah.
But it's just not talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
So the Sadducees, for the most part, because they didn't really believe in the things that, that what you would think the Jews would believe in, a creator God who has chosen the people of Israel, who interacts and intervenes on behalf of the people of Israel, and he does miracles, and that there's angels that minister to us, and that there's a heaven someday and a resurrection. The Sadducees didn't believe any of that.
What did they believe then?
They believed that their religious system was for their social benefit.
Wow.
Right.
They didn't anchor themselves into Abraham or Moses?
No, they did, but it's, we are God's people. So they believed in a God, and we are God's people because of Abraham, so we need to keep this culture alive. Whereas the Pharisees were like, no, we need to obey the law because we want to go to heaven, right? So the Pharisees' motivation was to be good enough to go to heaven. The Sadducees were, we need to preserve our religious culture because it is our culture.
So why was there a necessity for both the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Couldn't the Pharisees accomplish both
It's kind of like the
jobs?
Democrats and Republicans.
Ooh.
Right? It's kind of that they, hey, we both love America. We both, we both have our view of things. But what you had was the Pharisees who were deeply religious, who genuinely believed that their religion would get them to God. And the Pharisees believed that they were already the chosen people of God, and they didn't believe in the resurrection. So this is the only life that matters. And they bought their positions and their power from the Roman government. And so it was a smaller class, it was a rich class, and they bought their power. And then that's because, remember, the Roman government was the one appointing the high priests at that point. It's purely political. So
the Sadducees were more snake-like, probably.
Yeah, certainly. They had less moral qualms.
So
with regard
would they be
to,
more like the Republicans or the Democrats?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that. I was saying it's two different. all I was saying was two different.
Come on, Jeff, finish the illustration.
I was only saying there's two different parties. Two different parties, right? One was a constitutionalist.
That's all I've thought about since you said that.
One party was a constitutionalist party, the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And the Sadducees were situational.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So you can decide which party then aligns with that.
Yeah. You can decide, everybody.
So here, anyways, what I think is amazing is the Pharisees hated Jesus.
Yeah.
And yet you have some kind of a summit here.
Yep.
On a Sabbath day, it's a holy day. Jesus is at a Pharisee's home having dinner. Why would Jesus go into the turf of his perceived enemies? Right.
So there's a note that's written here.
Oh, there is?
In the
Life Application Study Bible?
It's only one note. And by the way, we recommend the Life Application Study Bible,
love it.
even though that they don't pay us to do that.
They don't pay us at all.
But we love it, so we're just giving that out for free. And Luke chapter 14, verses 1 through 6, it says this on the notes. Earlier, Jesus had been invited to a Pharisee's house for discussion in Luke 7:36. This is a prominent Pharisee. This time, a prominent Pharisee invited Jesus into his home specifically to trap him into saying or doing something for which he could be arrested. It may be surprising to see Jesus on the Pharisees' turf after he had denounced them so many times, but he was not afraid to face them, even though he knew that their purpose was to trick them into breaking their laws. Mm-hmm. So, oftentimes we see that was what they were trying to do. And so it's probably, it's most likely that this is the case, because the idea that he would be invited on a Sabbath day, is probably more than coincidence. And then elsewhere in the scriptures, doesn't Jesus say something similar? Because he's healed men on the Sabbath before, right?
Yeah. Oh, lots of times.
Yeah.
This is one of the battles they fight all the time.
Yes. And so once again, he goes back to his same argument. And he says, which one of you doesn't work on the Sabbath? Now, it's not like there was a rule by God in the Old Testament that you shouldn't work on the Sabbath. It just says,
There's lots of rules.
No, there's lots of rules about work, but it's the application of what is work.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
It's the application of like what is actual work. So the spirit of the law says that we should rest from work in general, to not concentrate or toil or labor toward the physical things, but rather to put our energy, our time, and relaxation, and also an attitude of worship and gratitude toward God. Yeah. So that the Sabbath is both beneficial for us worshiping God and for our benefit as well.
Right. They weren't supposed to plow their fields. They weren't supposed. They were supposed to prepare their meals before the Sabbath began. They weren't supposed to carry firewood. There's all these rules about how to honor the Sabbath that God was trying to say, hey, this isn't a general principle about resting. This is, I want you to rest. Don't do the work of your life on Sabbath. This is a time for you, your family, and me. That's what it's for. So don't do those things. But then God gave exceptions and says, hey, if a donkey falls in the thing, you rescue that donkey. If somebody needs to be rescued or saved, take care of them. And that's what Jesus is referring to here is, hey, even you guys are willing. If your son needs to be rescued, you'd rescue him on the Sabbath. Right. So there are things that are more important in the moment. The emergency of saving a life is more important than, oh, I'm sorry, I have to sit on my hands. We got to wait until 6:00 tomorrow afternoon. Then I'll rescue you. Right.
Well, what I was trying to go to earlier when I said there were no rules, and then I corrected, pivoted. What I was trying to say is that the Pharisees often created rules.
More rules. They made rules about the rules about the rules. Yeah. To the point that now, did you know that there are elevators in Jerusalem for the Hasidic Jews?
Oh, this is gonna make Chris mad.
There are elevators in Jerusalem that just go up and down, and they stop at every floor, and they open, and then they close, and they go to the next one, so that nobody has to push a button. Because when you push that button, there's an electrical spark which creates a fire. And God said, "Don't make a fire on the Sabbath. Make a fire before the Sabbath."
You have got to be kidding!
I promise you. So if the fire is already going, that's fine. So the fact that this motor is going up and down and creating sparks going up and down, that's fine because it's already going before the Sabbath. But to push the button to make that electrical contact, there's the chance of a little spark.
So God's in heaven going, oh, he pushed the button.
Yeah, exactly. So
he has broken the law.
So even today in Israel, for the Orthodox Jews, they've made rules about the rules about the rules about the rules about the rules, and those are laws in their mind. As opposed to God saying, listen, your Sabbath goes from sundown on Friday till sundown on Saturday. And during that time, don't make fires. You can do all that other work before sundown on Friday. And then, so don't make fires to cook. Have it already going. Do all that. That's what he did. And they've taken it all the way down to you can't have a button because it might create a spark.
Yeah, that's super crazy.
Yeah, and so this is what Jesus is pushing back against. Come on, there is something. So the principle is rest and do everything you can to not do any work on the Sabbath. But there are times your animal falls in a pit, your son needs to be rescued. Of course you would do that. And Jesus is trying to explain, and by the way, God gave permission in the law for those kinds of things. So he's trying to explain that this man who has an edema, right? His skin is all swollen. He's retaining water or something. This man's current circumstance is one of those. He fell in a pit. He needs to be rescued. And I have the ability. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. And by the way,
Jesus didn't even break a sweat. He just touched him.
Right. And by the way, he sort of takes that position on anybody he heals on the Sabbath.
That's right. That's right.
Because he's saying it's the same thing. Right. Somebody's in need of rescuing, in need of health, the healing. And so that therefore it's just like rescuing somebody out of a pit.
Yeah. So he's sitting here with his perceived enemies because he's not afraid to be there. I would also say another element is if you want to affect change, you have to be in the room. And so I think this is another hint that Jesus hadn't given up on his enemies. hadn't given up on his Pharisees. On the people who had set themselves against him, knowing that they're going to kill him. But you know what? Nicodemus was a Pharisee, and Nicodemus was became a follower of Jesus. So I think while you're still breathing breath, even while you've positioned yourself as an enemy of Christ, Jesus doesn't perceive you as an enemy. So he wants to change them. He wants to change their lives. That's why he's continuing to engage. It's why they're the ones compromising, not him. So he's already decided the gospel's available for everybody. Whosoever will may come, right? So he's already decided everybody that's willing to turn from their sin and turn to God can come through this narrow gate, can go down this narrow path, can come into my kingdom. So he's not the one compromising. They're the ones who said, you're a heretic. They're the ones who said, you've committed blasphemy. So Jesus isn't the one compromising to be in this meeting. He's hoping to change them with his words. That's why he's continuing to engage theologically with them. They're the ones compromising by sitting down, but they're doing it with evil intent, and that is to try to trap him. Yeah,
and I love how Jesus poses questions for which he knows that nobody has the answer to.
Yeah, they can answer.
He says, which of you? Right? Yeah. And so it's that same scenario where he says, okay, I make you a deal. He who is without sin cast the first stone, right?
Yeah.
Which is not a question, but a statement.
Right.
But it's one of those things where he already knows the answer, which is nobody's going to cast the first stone because everybody has sins, right?
Right.
And it's one of these things where he's like, which of you doesn't do this?
Right.
And then, of course, they have no answer. Because, it's just great the way that Jesus sometimes does that. I think he does it in our lives too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where he often, in the scripture, he'll ask us questions like, where is your faith? And, why are you afraid? And it's meant for those people there, in the boat. But at the same time, it's one of those questions where it just penetrates.
Yeah.
And we don't have to answer because we know the answer.
Yeah.
Which is like, I should have faith.
Yeah.
Right? The God who is in control of the storms is in the boat, Just one of those kind of statements.
So he's not afraid of his enemies. He's willing to engage with them, but clearly his audience is not his enemies. His audience is, it says in the first verse, and the people were watching him closely. So sometimes you choosing to be a good citizen, you choosing to be a decent person, you choosing to sit down with your perceived enemies, it's not just about the engagement of you and that person. Right? Otherwise, you can go nuclear, right? It's a fight to the death between the two, verbal fight to the death between your two opinions. But at Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or New Year's dinner, there's witnesses. There's other people watching. Jesus is not changing most of the Pharisees. A few of the Pharisees changed, but most of the Pharisees did not change until after his resurrection, right? And then lots of Pharisees did. But before, he didn't win them in the argument. But what he was doing was he was speaking and demonstrating for the people who were watching. And I think sometimes we forget that we've got so many, we want to argue religious stuff at work in an angry way, forgetting the fact that there's lots of silent witnesses all around us watching, just curious to see how all this is going to go down, right? And instead of showing love and grace and mercy and gentleness while we're still declaring the truth, like Jesus would do here, speak the truth in love, grace and truth kind of idea. Sometimes we just want to fight. And then we wonder why people, reject Christ. And a lot of times it's because they're rejecting Christians. Right. We don't like Christians. And so we're not going to become a follower of Christ.
And that makes Chris mad.
Yeah, that makes Chris mad. And so in this situation, you can tell Jesus was aware of the fact, not only is he having a debate with these Pharisees who are enemies, he's aware of the fact that there's a crowd. So his audience was the people watching. You just have to be aware that there's way more people watching than we realize.
That's great. Well, that's our time, and that's a great place to end. So we will see you next time on The Bible Guys.